Hey, welcome to Hey Calli, where we talk about careers and navigating corporate culture, answering FAQs from various folks that I've mentored over the years and worked with. Of course, none of this will reveal the identities of anyone who asked any of these questions, and nothing I say is legal advice. Nothing I say is reflective of anyone I work for now or have worked with in the past, and any resemblance to anyone living or dead in anything I say is purely coincidental. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's jump into the question I thought would be perfect for a Friday evening with a glass of wine after work. And the question was, does treatment by difficult bosses get better the more senior you are at a company? And I got asked this question years ago. I was a senior executive at the time, and immediately it made me think about the position the person who was asking me was in. And I became very empathetic because I remembered a time when I was in that position and I kind of felt bad for the person. It felt as if the individual was hopeful for better treatment over time, like if I just hang in there, it'll get better. And unfortunately, my answer was no, it doesn't get better. In fact, it probably gets worse. Now, that doesn't mean that there are no exceptions. Certainly there are. I've observed them myself. However, the more senior you are, the more pressure there is on you and those around you. Everyone reports to someone. Even if you're the CEO, you answer to a board of directors typically. There are very few instances, I should say, where you are beholden to none. And so taking for granted that you are always going to be beholden to someone, the pressure is very, very significant the higher up the corporate ladder you go. People ask direct questions and they want direct answers, and yet, you being in a very senior role, you are expected to answer questions directly, having a very nuanced and detailed knowledge of a lot of details, right? But the minutia of what your team does, you'll get asked questions about that and expect to have the answers. And that's very difficult to do the more accountability you have, the more broad the scope of your responsibility. So that in and of itself creates a challenge. And then you add to it the pressure to perform, to meet corporate objectives is huge. And there are fewer people to absorb that pressure the higher up you go. What's more, you're compensated more richly at the more senior ranks. And unfortunately, with that comes an expectation of tolerance. Tolerance for what can sometimes be negative behavior. Tolerance for what can be seen as less than civil discourse. Now, that's certainly not always the case, but it definitely can be. Things that senior leaders say in meetings, when the pressure is on, when they're not at their best under those conditions, can be pretty bad. And one might not expect that when you haven't yet gotten to that level, but it's very real. And again, that doesn't mean it's always the case, but it certainly can be. That kind of pressure does not always bring out the best in people. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it does not. So you don't want to plan your career in a way that gets you to that level expecting, a more refined level of civility. If it happens, great. But I have seen more often than not, it is the opposite. So you need to understand that there's more you need to know at that level. There's less time to know it. There's more frequency with having to know it under a lot less predictable circumstances. And the people asking are not always at their best because they're under tremendous pressure too.